Hey, 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 here we go, guys. The song's shorter. Hey everybody, how you doing? How you doing? How are you doing? What's up, Leslie Sides? What's up, Soul Singer? What's up, everyone on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube? So glad to have all of you here. This is we love our Wednesdays. We love our Wednesdays. And as you know, Phil told us last week he's going to be working. So he's out there working tonight. I'm here holding down the fort, and I have a wonderful, wonderful guest who he's top of my list to call to be my co-host when the other gentleman is not around. I'm so glad to have you all in here this week. So let's see, how was the week? The week was pretty doggone good. Yeah, I just booked a pretty cool job coaching for someone, but I'm not going to tell you who it is today. I got to wait until we sign on the bottom line, until we get everything worked out. But I'm excited about working with this gentleman again. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's just been generally a really good week, you guys. There's nothing really to report. My show closed a few weeks ago, and I'm still in that getting everything out of the theater, moving on to the next thing, and quite honestly, taking a breath for just a moment at least, because it's been crazy, but it's been good. Hey there, Amos Moses. Hey there, Ward Wilson. Hey, hey, hey to all of you, David Peterson, coming from way over in Malaysia. So happy to have all of you guys here. Phil sends his mad love to all of you. And so, I've got a very special guest tonight, someone who you have seen before. I could give you his resume, I could list a bunch of stuff. But instead of doing that, I like to do it this way. There's Stephen Adams.
That is quite a build up.
You've got a lot to live up to, and I know
I
you will,
do.
and you do. How you doing, baby?
I'm doing well.
Good,
It's
good.
been a it's what is it, Wednesday? It feels like it's been a full week already.
Well, shoot, you just got back from Greece,
That's true.
so your body is like on what time zone am I in? What time zone am I? What's what?
I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing, but
It's
I'm doing it.
that's
And
right. You're doing it.
that's it. That's it. But it's been a good week. It's been a great week. I mean, I think every day on God's earth is good. So, just take it from there.
Yeah. You know what? I want to say something before we continue on. I do want to acknowledge that we've lost many people, and we lost a very, very, very special guy this week. A shock to all of us. Malcolm Jamal Warner, too young, too soon, tragically, and just want to send love to. I don't know how well you knew him. I knew Malcolm, but I hadn't seen him in years, so I want to say that to his friends, his family, and to his mom, Pam Warner. She was his rock. She is the one who got that boy started, got that man started in his brilliant career. And Stephen, it makes me think about how many kids we knew, especially during the time when he was acting as a child actor when he came into the business, and how so many of them got into drugs or got into trouble. And Malcolm, he stayed on the straight and narrow and he kept working. He didn't let the Cosby show define him other than it was iconic, but he kept going and that's so rare in our industry. So blessings and condolences to all.
Yeah, that's a big loss. And,
Mm.
I think people feel it because I feel like, even those who didn't know him feel like they grew up with him.
Yeah.
And, and I think that image is the imagery. And he was the Cosby kid that stood out more than any of the others, not that they weren't all wonderful, but he's the one that you always remember, just being Theo.
Yeah,
It's
right,
just
right, 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 right.
so amazing. So amazing.
So wonderful. So I wanted to give a shout out. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, but our we had some trouble before we got on here, didn't we, Stephen? We had like
Ah,
little
we'll get
Wi-Fi,
through it.
so my
We'll get
comments
through it.
aren't going to come up. I had them looking beautiful, and now they're not going to come up. They're coming in looks like point three font. So, but I'll read them to you. I want to tell you, Leslie Side says one of the episodes of The Resident I did. Malcolm was on set and was such a class act. Great guy. He will be missed for sure. Yeah, yeah, he sure will be. So tell us about your week, my dear.
Gosh, well, this morning I got to go and meet a bunch of producers from Senegal. I mean, sorry, from Cote d'Ivoire, slash the Ivory Coast, and
Ah.
that was fascinating. We had a great conversation about, because a big part of my overall mission is connecting Africa with the African diaspora,
Mm-hmm.
and that can take so many forms. And because we're talking about a gigantic continent with, I mean, Ivory Coast has 60 different cultures in it, 60 different languages in it alone. And I think that's one of the things about Africa that people don't understand is that pre-colonial Africa was, thousands of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And these countries, these borders that we're talking about were created by others. So, a lot of what we're dealing with now is uh making something positive out of all that and making something positive out of where we find ourselves in the world today.
Mm.
You have African Americans, you have Afropeans, you have Colombians, you have Latin American African people, and you have people from the continent. That's a lot of people. We are the global majority. And
Yes.
it's kind of an amazing thing when you start to really experience that, all the gorgeous varieties of people that there are, all the cultural roots underneath, maybe a language group or a nationality, and all the amazing stories that can come out of that.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful that you're connecting it. I had a wonderful conversation with one of your clients who's now a friend of
Right.
mine, Mandela Dubé. Oh, we
Yeah.
had a wonderful conversation. He's so terrific. And I'm looking for
Monda's a thinker and a philosopher as well as an artist, and it all comes through in his work.
yes, yes, it does. And he's so much what I love. Another thing I love about him is what he puts into his work is about the people. Is he's telling stories. He's taking historical stories and he's turned them into films. Some of them are action films, and you get involved and you go, "Wait a minute, this was a true story."
Yeah,
And that's so wonderful that he gives us history. And it's not just in his action films. He also did was it a documentary on Mandela?
he's that's upcoming, but yes, he's got that coming up. He's the film, one of the action film was called Heart of the Hunter, which debuted at number one on the Netflix platform,
That was the one I saw. I loved it.
and that was the first African film to do that, and it debuted at number one in 78 countries,
Wow.
and so it literally made history. And but he takes it in stride and keeps on walking because can't rest on your laurels. You got to keep making things happen.
Yes, yes. You really do. What have you done for me lately is real.
Mm, this is the truth.
Yeah.
But I think also just artists have that restlessness. It's like, great, I did this and I'm proud of it. But I mean, I can't keep going out to dinner on what I did 5 years ago. It's about what's my new obsession, what's coming next,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and what's on my heart and mind to express through this next project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. What's in my heart and mind to express on this next project? Phil and I were talking last night And it's not about money. We all want to make money. The starving artist days are way behind us, but yet and still, we're not doing projects just for the money. It's really about putting out there a message to heal the world, to let the world see itself in different light. This is the time when storytellers of all kinds, poets, filmmakers, theater productions, so forth and so on, it's the time to get out there and let your voice be heard. It's the time to speak your truth because people need more positive action than negative action right now.
Indeed, they do. I mean, let's talk about storytelling, because storytelling has been a vital part of human expression, I guess, since there were humans. And people used to tell stories around fires. People shared their history. People shared their family history around dinner tables, and older people told stories that took you back into the past. I mean, I still call it my grandmother's house. My aunt inherited my grandparents' house, but in that house, we've been telling stories about people that are still referenced that I never met, but
Mm,
they became a part of the family lore. Like as children, it's like, oh, remember Aunt so and so or Uncle so and so or Grandpa this, and so we heard so many stories about people who were gone when we were children that
right.
we're now referencing people that we never met, that it's 50 years later, and we're still talking about these people like they're going to walk in the door. But there's something really interesting because I somebody came in and said, who were you talking about? And they're like, well, when is this person coming? I'm like, oh, that person's been dead since 1980. It's like,
Mm,
you know, but we keep them alive in our hearts and our minds, and the stories and the wisdom they had and the love they shared.
mm-hmm.
And so it's just funny to have that have that happen, you know.
And to come down through generations. So then the
Yeah.
stories they change just a little bit. They get a little more fantastical
Oh, I bet they
every
do. I mean, of course they
every
do.
time, right?
Of
Right.
course they do. My brother hates that. He goes, that didn't happen. I'm like, yes, it did. I said, here's what you have to understand, my brother. Do not let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Ah! And we call it dramatic license.
I mean, in the essence of the story, I mean, the essence is the same. Why are you quibbling to me about the details? My story's better than yours. Stop talking.
you know, I say that to Phil too. I go, you're the only person you can say I can really say and mean it. My brother.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we have stories that we tell. We're working on a documentary for Dad, and we've had many meetings, and now we all have a different come from, which is really exciting about this. And there's a way we want to tell it, and each of us telling our stories. And it's so interesting when you get everybody together and they go, no, that didn't happen. That didn't. It happened this way. Well, you know what? This is the way it happened for me. And this is the way I saw it
Right.
because we all have that filter and we all see different things. We can be looking at the same thing, be in the same room, but we all saw something different.
But when you're young, it's also, you're coming from, you're interpreting from wherever you were. If you're 6, 7, 8, 9, I mean, that to you was the truth. Your father was a giant to you, literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
The story, how it recorded in our young minds is fact to us.
Isn't that something?
And somebody older might have said, "Yeah, no, it wasn't that special,"
But
but to, to me,
but to
it
me,
was.
it was.
So don't take my 6-year-old memories away
That's
from
right.
me.
That's right. Oh my gosh. We were telling stories yesterday, and I was like, I went, I don't remember that story at all. Linda, my sister, is an elephant.
Mm.
She remembers everything. I feel like I am living in the moment and I'm off. I'm living in the moment and then I'm off. I remember certain things, but other things, oh, well, I forgot. But yeah, the stories of our family.
Yeah, they're special.
They're so special and they're so important. And it doesn't matter what you do in life um, that elevates you in any way in your big house, your little house, your lots of money, no money. You have family, you have stories of your life, and they are important. And they're important to share.
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, every family is has important history. I don't care what the circumstances are. I mean, we're all put on this planet to learn something, to evolve, to pass on what we know to other people. And I remember my grandmother saying to me once, um, there were people, some older gentleman that was saying something. And I mean, I'm just going to be frank. He wasn't a very bright gentleman, but I remember it was clear on my face that I was not showing respect. And my grandmother said to me later on, she said, "Listen, honey, you got to remember something. Even even a fool has something to share. Even a fool has experiences that you have never had, and you need to humble yourself and wait for that one thing that could change your life. And don't you dare disrespect someone who's been on this planet longer than you, whatever you may think about them. You don't
Mhm.
have that right."
Mhm. Mhm. That is so true. Everybody has value. Everybody has something to say. I know I remember this one very tall white cat. I was walking, I was coming out of In-N-Out Burger. I was walking down the street in Sunset Boulevard. You know it can be wild. Guy was
Yeah.
homeless. He was leaning down, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I was emotionally upset about something, and out of the blue, he said the words to me I needed to hear.
Mm,
And I often think if I had just, moved around him or given him a look that I didn't care about him, or, if I'd stayed and maybe waited for him to leave and I hadn't walked outside, I wouldn't have heard what he said to me that helped me find balance in the issue I was going through. And you see
hmm
how much it affected me so much. I don't remember what was upsetting me, but I remember him.
hmm But that's the thing, messages come to us. I mean, life deals the cards it deals. And you have to be open to, you have to see what's happening to you at all times. You have to pay attention to what's being put in front of you at all times. It's hard to always be that aware
Mm,
and be
mm,
able to receive whatever that is going to be, because there's
mm.
always something. The universe is always trying to give you something. Always, every day.
Always, always. All you have to do is listen. That's all. That's all we have to do. Listen and act on it.
Yeah. But that's easier said than done.
Yes, it is. But that is part of life, isn't it? That is part of. And
Yeah.
I feel as I get older, I'm more available to acting on it instead of going, "Oh, that's just a crazy thought I had." No, pick up the phone, call that person, send that email, send that text, or make that left turn instead of that right turn.
I think you got to. I mean, I've learned my lesson the hard way by not listening to those instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Once I heard a voice very loudly and clearly say, "Tell this driver, a friend of mine, to turn left and get off of Sunset Boulevard." And then I overrode and said, people always say you're always so bossy in backseat driving. And I'm like, just shut up. Literally 2 seconds later, the car next to us got rear-ended and that car plowed into us. And
Oh.
if we had done what I heard
Uh-huh.
myself say, that wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the story it goes on because the guy that hit us was drunk and had no insurance. And I was like, fine. The police came. They said, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" No, everybody said they're fine. The next day, I couldn't get out of my bed,
Yeah, always
and
happens next
and
day.
then over the next 2 years, I dealt with vertigo and all kinds of unravelings of things because I didn't listen to that one voice that said, "Tell him to turn off of the street."
Mm, mm. You hear that, everybody? I had that happen with a girlfriend in a car. We were parked when I lived in Los Feliz. I had an apartment, and she brought me home, and we were parked. We were double parked, and I said, why don't you pull over? Oh, she was mad at me. She was so mad. We can just sit here and just finish talking. I said, no, you should really pull over, because people come around this corner. I have a bad feeling. She
Mhm.
got mad. I got quiet, when a woman gets quiet. So she pulled over, and sure enough, coming around, careening around the corner, came this car. And that was the time when I went, ooh, listen. And I do my best to do it more often now than I used to.
What do we call that? Is that the God voice, the conscience? What is it?
Is it
Because everybody has that.
intuition? Yeah, is it intuition? You can't even say it's women's intuition because everyone does have it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like it's all of that.
I mean, for example, you can't, there are things, if you're out walking a dog and a dog doesn't want to move, it doesn't want to move. It reacts to things and you can't tell it otherwise.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to understand that thing, that creature is protecting you and doesn't want things to happen. So it's like pulling you back. Sometimes you got to let the dog have its way,
Right,
you
right. You
know,
never know why.
you don't know why.
They've got a different sense. Animals have a
Yeah.
total different sense that they use that we don't use. The same thing when they say
We're
dogs.
trained, we're trained out of it.
We're trained. I totally agree with you. And so much of it we don't know how to use.
Hmm.
Think of the stories of there's so many of them of dogs that are jumping on their owner's chest. They're about to have a
Hmm.
heart attack. Or the dolphins, people go swimming and they're hitting them where the liver is. I don't know where it is on my body. And there's a problem with the liver. The animals have a sense. They're using a part of their brain. We think we're the ones in control. We're the smartest, biggest, baddest animal on the planet. I
And
don't
we're
think
pretty great, and we're pretty great, but we need to listen.
yes.
Because there are
Yes.
messages coming everywhere, and sometimes we ignore them. I mean, there's some very obvious ones when it comes to the environment. The planet is speaking to us, and we're not listening.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think there's some, I say that not to sound doom and gloom because I do believe that there are solutions to every problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that humans are the sort of creatures that take it to the limit before they, get with the program.
Oh, we like to kvetch about it. We like to complain. Oh, woe is me, blah, 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 all of that going on. And I'm at that place right now. It's like, okay, you get a couple of minutes and now let's move on.
Right.
Because if I find for me, if I sit and I complain about my problem that I've got, I can't find an answer. There's no solution that's going to come into my consciousness or my sphere to help me solve this because it's blocked by all the mishigosh that I'm going through.
Exactly. I mean, you're moving in the direction that you're pointed in, and if the direction is, scattered and frenzied, that is what you will receive.
Right, right, right. Even if, and you guys, it's not a, okay, let me see. You can say, well, maybe that's your personality. That's Steven's personality. It's my personality. It is it is something that can be part of your personality or it is something that can be learned. It's another tool in your tool chest you've got to pull out so that you can see your way through the shit that happens in life. There's always shit happening. There's always a
Yeah.
problem. There's always something coming on. You can't let everything pull you down and upset you or else you'll be down for a long time.
Or just focusing on the fact that there is a problem. I mean, great. We are all able to observe that.
Right. Yeah, we
But what is
are.
the solution?
What is the solution? And you can find the solution, or at least you can think of someone who can help you find that solution.
That's it.
What's going to guide you, right?
I know I've shared this story with you where I was working on a film with Spike Lee, and this was, God, good Lord, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's okay. I'm still 27, so it's all right. I was a child prodigy. But anyway, at one point I asked him a question and he said, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, we could do this, we could do that, or we could do that." And he said, "Great. So which one would you like to do?" I
Oh.
said, "Well, I'd like to do the second thing because then that's what we're going to do." And then he said, "Hold on a second." And he said, "Can you gather everybody around?" And I said, "Of course." And so he said, "People, I need to say something to you. If you come to me and tell me that the house is on fire and you're not holding a hose, I don't need you here. I have eyes. I know there's a problem. What I want from you is your creativity. What I want from you is your solutions. What I want from you is for you to step up and actually make a movie. And making a movie means is genuinely consists of problem solving from beginning to the end, right?
Right.
Not running around telling the sky is falling. I'm like, we get that, but what's the solution?
Right.
So I never forgot that because people were like, wow, that's kind of mean. I'm like, mean.
Me.
He's empowering you to step up
Exactly.
into your creativity and bring answers to the table, and one of them may be chosen. that is what you're supposed to do in general.
Right. That's such a nurturing thing to do, to
Yeah,
say to anyone, to empower you that way. And actually at that moment, your name is not at the top of the list. So guess what? You're
right.
actually not going to get blamed if it doesn't work. This is your opportunity to grow, to sharpen your tools, to help the team become stronger. I love that. That's such a
And
spirit.
everybody remembers when a problem has been solved. I mean, because come on, your day moves forward,
That's
and you
right.
move towards the ultimate goal, which is to make the damn movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And a movie cannot be made with one person.
No,
A
no.
day at a job is not successful with only just one person.
Yeah, no. And a great director knows that a great director is really an arbiter of the decisions made by lots of people.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm,
they choose and they choose and they choose and they choose and they choose. You're chosen for what you know how to do, and then they choose elements from you, and then that becomes their direction. But
mm-hmm.
if they have to pull everything out of you, then you're just occupying space.
Exactly. It's a collective. You bring it together. You're the captain of the ship. Now, how do you take all that information and now make it work for the whole of what you're
Yeah,
doing?
yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's funny. Again, I think about years gone by and things that were opportunities I didn't understand as opportunities. I saw them as burdens, or my fear took over. I had a chance to take a show, a play to a theater festival, and instead of embracing that, I became frantic about it and essentially sabotaged the opportunity and then pulled out because I was like, I can't, I need, it's like I couldn't just get out my own way,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And
How,
it's interesting to be honest about that now.
now, what gives you grace in being honest about it now?
Well, I mean, you have to forgive yourself for the foolishness that you will live through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all will, and hopefully less and less as we go through life. But when you're younger, you don't even necessarily always know that. I think especially for men, a lot of times what is when you are feeling fear, it winds up being expressed. We express a lot of our feelings as anger,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as opposed to actually drilling down to what you're really feeling,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, I need help. I'm afraid to ask for it. I feel overwhelmed. I need to be honest about that. I humble myself and say that I need help. No, I just get angry and make you a problem and then push the whole thing away.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did.
And you grew from that.
It took me a while to understand what I'd done because I didn't really even know. I was like, oh God, thank God that's over. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is what you said you wanted to do, and now it's
Right.
gone,
Right.
and you got rid of it.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
what's happening?
Right. Right. We can blow up stuff for ourselves. There are people I know that I've met in my life, and I think about the fear that I had of meeting them or the insecurity that moment was presented to help elevate me. And I didn't handle it right.
Yeah.
And I think about that and I'm just like, so instead of being upset with myself, let's not do that again. Let's handle
I
that
mean,
situation differently. If it comes up now, let's do it differently.
I think that that's the beauty of having to live through this. I mean, what I'm describing happened a long time ago, thank God. And I haven't done that to anything because now I understand that when you feel these feelings of fear and insecurity and inadequacy, that you've got to focus on what you need to actually make the thing successful. And that
Mm,
means other people getting involved. And again, you've got to humble yourself. Back then, I thought everybody, if you were producing or directing, it was up to you. And if you couldn't do it, then you were failing. I didn't understand that a good,
mm-hmm.
any kind of good leader is honest and says, I need help and you're good.
Right.
Help me.
Come on, that's right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
There's a question here that our K9 has. It's for both of us. We've heard this phrase, quote, no one will come to save us, unquote. While I understand that no one can live our journey, what is wrong with being saved? We tend to turn away help.
I
Why?
love that. I love that. I think we turn it away out of ego and fear. And you're right. Nobody's going to come to save you in the sense that nobody's going to come and live your life for you and handle all of your problems for you. The only time that happens is in your infancy and your childhood, and the parents are always trying to train you to not do that
Mm,
because
mm,
eventually you've got to pull your own weight. But I think that there's a balance when you're in a professional circumstance and you are facing challenges, and if you do not open your mouth to seek help, you will bring the whole thing down. And I think that's the difference. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think we do need to humble ourselves. We do need to ask for help. It doesn't mean you're going to ask somebody to do everything for you, but there are moments when you absolutely must humble yourself and request it.
mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. My father brought us up in a household where you had to know everything. So saying I don't know, it was like it was a sin. So I remember going through so much of my
Mhm.
life not admitting I didn't know. And there was no way for me to find out because I wasn't going to ask you to help me learn it or understand it because remember, I'm not supposed to say I don't know. And then at a certain
Right.
point in my life, I went, wait a minute, I'm missing a whole bunch of information here.
That's that generation, though. Let's be honest. That's that generation that was had a warrior spirit that had
Mm,
opened incredible doors that for us as well that
mm-hmm.
we were walking through didn't know those doors weren't open 5 minutes before we got there, right?
Right,
And
right.
so the least you could do was show up prepared
Mm-hmm.
and and knowledgeable. I mean, because I definitely got some of the same energy from my father in particular, which is you should know this, you should study harder, know more, be ready, be the answer. But you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely right. Nobody can know anything. Nobody can know everything. Excuse me.
That's very
No one
true.
can.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's an interesting thing you bring up because I believe that was a hallmark of that high
Mm-hmm.
achieving generation that came before us that was also very stoic and did so you didn't hear them complaining a lot. They just did what they had to do.
Mm-hmm. And they
They didn't have
also,
the luck. They didn't have the luxury of it.
no, and they also were the ones who said, you've got to be 10 times better.
Right.
And so saying I don't know meant that you were not. And that's true. That is so true, Stephen. Well, you just solved a little thing for me right there.
And
That
can we also unburden ourselves of that and I'm going to swear right now, that bullshit that we have to be 10 times better. We're already enough.
yes.
I can't
Yes.
tap dance like that for anyone or for anything
Mm-mm.
when I've put myself in a world where there's so many demands by virtue of what it is we're doing. I don't need to add the additional complex of then in the back of my mind thinking, well, because I'm a person of color, I've got to work hard. No, no,
Mm.
no, no, no.
It's the standard of how you work, no matter what nationality you are or where you come from, that is instilled in you. I'm with you because that is a freaking burden. Because then you're still looking for validation from other people, and you still are putting yourself in a position where you get to say if I'm enough. So I
Right.
never get to say that I'm enough.
But this is this. But then again, we're going back to the psychology of the previous generation, where they were playing to an audience, and it was presumed that they were
Right.
always under observation, and they were always acting to the standards of this audience, whether they were actually visible or even in the home, where you're supposed to be up here at all
Yes.
times.
I'll tell you, K9. As I just shared with you guys, my father saying you can never say I don't know. So as I grew up and became an adult and got out there in the work world, I didn't ask for help a lot. I didn't because I thought then that made me less than. I thought that made me weak. I'm into asking for help now. I also find that in asking for help, I'm giving somebody else an opportunity to gift me their talent. And that's not on my side, that's on their side. I've never asked anyone for help who didn't go, what you need, I'm here. What do you need? Or if they
Right,
didn't know, somebody else
right.
that knows. They're excited to be of service to help whatever
I
it is,
mean,
no matter
I mean,
what the question is.
you can't when your car breaks down, you call AAA.
Right.
Do what you need to do.
That's right. That's right. And it makes it
What is? I
so
mean,
fun.
but there's we're you and I are talking about things that arose from the same mindset, which is
Mhm.
that this quest for, that generation that tried to turn us into perfect people
Mm.
made us unable, in some cases, unable to actually fulfill that because we didn't ask for help, because we didn't
Mhm.
seek anything outside of ourselves. And I appreciate the idea of self-reliance, but it's impossible for a human being to function that way 100% of the time. You just cannot.
Mhm. Mhm.
And nor should you. It's not healthy.
No, it's not. And what a burden it is on you. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It reminds me of so many women when I was growing up. They were losing their minds. They've got the kids, and then later on, the kids, the job, the husband, everything. They're doing everything instead of I need help. They're oftentimes saying, "Me young go, I need help. I'm going to be at the studio every day this week. I know you're going to be somewhere, but if you could Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday do X, Y, and Z, that's going to help our household run a lot better." And that's very important to share with people so they can help you not lose your friggin' mind.
And this is what communities, but this is what families historically were. They were, they are still, the fundamental structure in a society. And what does that mean? That means that, I mean, if you're in a large group, somebody may just hand you a baby and you just
That's right.
hold the
That's
baby.
right. That's
And so
right.
they can do something. Or, the grandfather will point and you better take the trash out. You don't have to think about it too much. You just like do something. Make this group run.
That's right.
And
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's right.
and,
That's so
and I,
true.
I remember, I remember, speaking of my grandmother, she would always talk about how, families are not a business, they are not a democracy, but what they are is a living thing, and that everybody contributes what they can. Some might just be able to bring in a bag of oranges. You are young, you can take out the trash. I have spent 10 hours in this kitchen cooking this meal. So when I ask you to do something, you're going to do it, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
when I call your grandfather, he's going to carve this turkey. And and you're going to do this, and and I don't want, and there's not going to be any questions about it. And and he went out and he may earn the money for this, and and gave it gladly. So all of y'all better get in here and do what you need to do.
I love that. I love that. We have a 4-year-old grandson. He is adorable. I love this kid. He's so sweet. He calls me Gigi Ma, and he calls me
Aw.
Younger Papa, and he's so great. But my stepson is not living with the mother of his son. They co-parent together beautifully. And I'm not just watching how they are with each other, which I like the dynamic between them. I'm looking at my grandson because I
Hmm.
can tell the way he is. But there's certain things he does in one home that he ain't gonna be doing in my home. So,
Right.
so for example, the other day he said something to me, and I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." I stopped what I was doing. I brought him over, and he's, I said, "You will calm down, and now let's talk about this. You don't speak to Gigi Mom that way. You don't do this and this.
Right.
You don't speak to any adults this way. Now, you really need to apologize." No, I didn't hear what you said. So we went back and forth on that, and he's getting it. He's getting it. So he's getting a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and hopefully he'll come out as a perfect person. I'm kidding. Then hopefully,
Yeah, I know.
he'll
Somebody who doesn't need any help at
doesn't need
all.
any help at all, right? But those things we have to, and in that way, I'm
Yeah.
helping him grow. I don't want you to be nice. I want you to have compassion and respect.
Right.
And when I say nice, for me, growing up, I was always being nice. And I feel that took some grit out of me. I feel like that took some choice out of me about whether I liked something or not, because my job as the oldest was to make sure everyone was comfortable. That's what
Hmm.
my job is the oldest. I'm the guinea pig. I'm the first one here. I'm leading the way. And I found that as I got older, I was doing a balancing act. And what do I really think? So in my 20s
Right.
and 30s, what do I really think about this moment, about what that person just said?
Yeah. It's an important thing to to be authentic. And I think you're
Mhm.
right. Nice can be performative. You
Mhm.
know, how do you really feel? You don't have to squander any feelings on people who don't show you respect. You don't even have to spend time around them. And that would be ideal, right? Just move
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think but this is, I think what I like about this conversation is that we're really sort of outlining the gifts that time gives you and
Yeah.
wisdom that you learn that you can only learn through living.
Yeah.
It would be great if we all came out knowing everything, but we don't. I mean, that's the point of making mistakes. And
Mhm.
success, as they say, is the persistence through failure.
Mhm. Oh,
That's
say
it.
that again, Stephen.
That
Success.
success is simply persistence through failure.
Mm. Mm. Did you hear
You
that, you
know.
guys? That's so profound. And the other thing you said that was so profound is the gifts of living. And that's not always, and that's not most of the time from the good stuff that happens. It's from
No,
the challenges, it's from the things
I
that
mean, let's
are
be
hard to
honest.
face.
If you observe a baby, for example, or a toddler, everything about them tells you, they everything they want to do by nature is to resist gravity, to learn how to walk. I mean, the gravity wants to pull them one way, their will wants them another way.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
this is we forget that involves falling, that involves pain, that involves hurting yourself, that involves sometimes busted lips and skint knees. That's that doesn't change. It just becomes less obvious physically, but the experience is similar throughout life. You're gonna get a little something that you don't like, and you gotta learn to cope with it
Mm-hmm.
and push through. Or as I said to an agent today, who she said, "How are things going in Hollywood?" I said, "Well, I've gotten accustomed to the taste of blood a little more often than I'd like, but it motivates me."
Speaking of that, I've got Chris. Chris, one of our listeners, he's got or watchers. Oh, we are because you can't see us. He's got a question, Stephen. He says, Mr. Adams, you have worked on several of my favorite films: Avatar, Green
Ooh,
Lantern, knowing to name a few. Which film was your favorite to work on?
I would say that. I mean, they're all fascinating, and each one of those things was a fascinating experience with with the directors. I mean, uh, uh, Avatar with Ang Lee, he was a very soft-spoken director who speaks in a certain way that is very poetic and very calm and very quiet, and he expresses himself where in a way that was just so beautiful and still and magical. And then which was the other film that you mentioned?
It's the Avatar, Knowing.
Yes,
Let me go back.
Knowing. Well,
Yeah.
knowing was probably one of the first credits I have, so I loved that just because it was like I brought that job into the studio and learned what it was like to to EP on those things and really ride through. And what was the last one? Thor.
Green Lantern.
Oh, Green Lantern. Oh, that was a crazy experience because uh, just every single one of them is different. It's hard to choose. I would say the one that I worked the hardest on, that you didn't mention was Thor because that was one of the biggest.
Mm.
We did half the effects on that film, and that was one of the biggest orders of effects in Hollywood at the time. And we wound up working on that for 18 months. I mean, it was
Wow.
the imagery of that stuff started seeming more real than real life. You know, it's like you
Mm.
spend hours and hours and hours looking at this stuff with a laser pointer, and it's crazy. And and of course, I'm sorry, I'm so jet lagged. I mentioned Ang Lee, and I meant to tie that to Life of Pi. James
Mhm.
Cameron with Avatar was to me one of the greatest experiences because that man is. I mean, they're all brilliant. All of these people are geniuses, but Cameron, when he talked about visual effects, and he's someone who did a lot of invention of visual effects, um, was so far ahead. Like he would talk about things, and we'd be like, "What is he? oh, it took us a while to catch up to the planet he was on. And
I love
and I
that.
just thought, and I thought, I can say this. I mean, a lot of people have said that he's a jerk or whatever, and I thought, no, it isn't that. It's just that here's a man whose mind is so far ahead of everyone else around him. I think he must get kind of lonely waiting for us to catch up.
Mm.
And that was my take of him. I thought he was brilliant. I learned just so much just watching him communicate and listening to him communicate and explain things and you understand these concepts in this mind that's it's just it's incredible.
Ooh, that's thrilling. I get chills about that. That's thrilling to be around that person who's actually using probably more of the percentage of his brain than we do
Yeah. I mean, they or in
in
different,
many
maybe
aspects.
we're using different parts of it, but he is his that thing is alive and active. I mean, look at the worlds that this man has created, and
Mm-hmm.
his work with water, is crazy. From
Mm-hmm.
the Abyss to Titanic, it's
That is such a
extraordinary.
theme. And then the second Avatar, that took place in the water. That had to do with
Hmm.
water.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, K9 says the narrative about winning in life seems like a burden. But if this life, what if this life is just an experiment? What if we're meant to lose? If so, can the loss be the win? I love these questions. Yes.
I actually say yes, 100%. I
Uh-huh.
mean, first of all, I believe that you're right. This is a damned experiment. And and the joke of the experiment is that by the time you're done with it, that's when you know all the rules and you're pretty much out of here. You
Mhm.
know, the illusion is that you would start off knowing all these things and be able to seize all these opportunities in your glorious youth. But the fact is, you don't know what the hell's happening when when you're young. You're just trying to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other, literally and figuratively,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm. Isn't that
And I
something?
think
We're
if you're doing it, if you're doing it right, you're still learning until the last breath, I think.
until the last breath. I'm with you. My dad used to say, "You're going to learn to keep learning new things to the day you die." And that is so very true. Kana, I think that's so profound, that question that you've given us, and also just in what you've written, because it is true. It's there are so many issues I can think of that of time I've gone through in life. I wouldn't give any of them away because I've walked away from each one of them a better person or more informed about life in some way, stronger in some way, clearer in some way than when I before that ever happened. When I thought, oh, I got it going on, I know what's happening, and then once I start to really engage in a problem or in a loss, and then see that wasn't a loss at all. Either I was not supposed to do that, or what did I learn from that? You and I recently turned down a job because we didn't like what was coming to us, and now they came back and it's even better because we stood our ground in what was important.
Yeah.
And that's so much. Could you look at it as at a loss? I thought about it. I could have, but I decided I wouldn't waste my time to do that. And
Hmm.
then it comes back.
But I think that, to this point about losing is the win, I agree with that because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the only time that you can learn. If everything's easy and everything goes your way, what wisdom is needed? You just get up and everything happens for you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people have lived that way and it kind of tends to ruin them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
need a bit of struggle.
You do. Life is about struggle. How many people we've seen? So many celebrity sons,
Well, I was going to say,
daughters.
well, you're taking the words out of my mouth.
Wow, who they come into a grand world they did not earn, and that's very difficult. That is a challenge. You haven't earned, and then people speak to you as if you're supposed to be a part of this and know how to comport yourself. And you really don't because you don't really understand where you are. And that's why so many end up turning to drugs because they are not prepared for what is happening. And too many of them are driving a Porsche at 16. I went to Beverly Hills High School. I remember those
Hmm.
coming in, daddy and mommy, doctor, lawyer, whatever, and they didn't have a balanced, youthful life. But the ones who were had to struggle to make something happen, who had consequence in their life, much better off.
It's an interesting thing because you look at some families who've had fortunes for centuries
Hmm.
and others where the money's gone in one or two generations. What's the difference between those family cultures?
Mm.
I think that the these older families tend to be more about work and values
Yes,
and not overemphasizing money because they understand that money is a tool, not uh,
a
nothing
destination.
more, and not the destination.
Hmm.
And because it's there, that you usually see these old families have social responsibility. They have foundations. They are expectations that the demand on your life is not that you be glamorous and consuming things and wearing jewels and driving cars or at 14 or whatever, but that you're actually a contributing member of society. And because you so much is available, then we're going to demand much more from you in a
That's
meaningful
right.
way.
But what is that? To whom much is given, much is expected.
Right.
And that is the truth. Francis A. Cheever says, walk in faith, not fear, warrior spirit. I just spent a wonderful week with my mom, grandchildren, 22, 24. A lot of love, laughter, and lessons learned by all. We watched Monsters Inc. 2. I love those monster movies. You mentioned authenticity. Ione and Stephen, what do you think about AI in TV and film?
Hmm. Well, I think AI is a tool, and I think that we've got to um, come to terms with it.
It ain't going anywhere.
No. In fact, it's already here. It's been here for a while. People just don't realize it.
Hmm. It's probably
All
been
those sorry?
it's been more in the business world. Now all of us have access to AI in some respect in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's already been there. Like when you do these automated replies on most websites, you're not dealing with a human being, you're dealing with an AI. It's
Hmm.
been around. It's doing all sorts of things already. I think that we've got to stop being, well, I don't know what the promotion of fear is all about. There's been discussion of how it's going to make people dumb, how it's going to make it impossible for students to learn. And then, smart teachers are like, no, here's what's going to happen. You are going to engage with AI, but instead of writing an essay, which I can't watch you make, I'm going to have you argue with the AI on the terms of what you've been taught. And you will have
Hmm.
to demonstrate your knowledge with the AI. And it's a question of how you engage with anything, right?
That's right. Too much of a
You
good
know,
thing is a bad.
yeah, and at the same time, I don't, people are talking about AI collapsing Hollywood. Well, here's my thing. I don't want to see a story that is a machine version of humanity.
Mm-mm. No.
I don't want someone to imagine every visual that I want. I mean, I've seen things. They're beautiful and they're entertaining, but I don't know that a work of art expressing humanity will be able to be done without human beings involved.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree with what you said. I remember when it all started, I was against AI. Oh my God, it's going to take our jobs away. It's a tool. It's here, and we need to learn how to use it. And it is a good tool if we learn how to use it and are not fearful of it and let it take over.
Exactly.
We have to be the ones always
And
in
what?
control. And if I could just follow this up with this, I was talking to someone today about this, and remember during COVID when we were locked in so none of us could have relationships with each other? We were sick. The human race was sick from that. We're not going to let that happen again.
No.
We're not going to disengage from each other again.
To have a
So,
virtual relationship with a computer program? No.
no, no.
Because essentially, if that's what you're doing, you're really having a relationship with yourself because you're just pushing buttons and interacting with something that's, mirroring you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You create that. Stephen, we've been talking about so much here. We just jumped in and got into stuff, and what we were going to talk about, and I want to hit on a little bit, or is the relationship between agent, manager, and artist, actor, or singer. But let's stay in the actor realm right now because you and I were talking about this. And I think that would also be in writers and directors about how that relationship needs to come closer so there's more of a team when there are things of conversation like should we strike? What is not working out for us in our not all in our unions? What can the unions do to work closer with our agents, our managers, our representatives so we can have a united front and maybe see things from a different perspective than just from ours?
Yeah, I think this is an essential conversation right now. I mean, I think you and I were talking about this earlier, and I was expressing my frustrations with the fact that unions go on strike without consideration for the fact that they are putting everyone around them on strike, including their reps who are their closest allies, but they're not being treated like that. And one of the things that a lot of agents say to me is that they wish that, for example, the Screen Actors Guild had interaction with actors, reps, agents, managers. And I'm suggesting that this conversation be happening on a quarterly basis where we talk about what we're facing because you guys don't know. We
Mm-hmm.
hand you results, but when somebody is negotiating what new terms there should be, we should absolutely be engaged in that kind of a conversation. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, in some ways, I almost feel like you know agents should be the ones who lead the renegotiation of the contracts with the studios.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know whether that's a conflict of interest or not, but that would have to someone would have to weigh in on that. But what I mean by that is that when we're laboring on someone's behalf every day of our lives, and uh, we know what to ask for, we know how to shape things. We would know how to talk about you know people's images being exploited in AI, things like this. That we would just most of us would automatically refuse that somebody wants to buy your image outright at let's say you're 19 years old and you're an extra and you're caught on camera and then you blow up and you become famous and then someone says, hey, but I own your image, so now
Mm-hmm.
I can exploit you. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, that doesn't even make sense. There's nothing about that makes any sense. Or even, the Scarlett Johansson case where they were doing a sound alike.
Right.
The voice was created to sound almost exactly like hers. I mean, like, let's guys cut the crap, you know.
Those are the kinds of things we do need to put into our contracts so
Right.
that that does not happen. And that's what
And
all
she's
of
the only one
this.
that's really been out there like that,
Mm,
front and center, where she fought them about. I think there was a film that was supposed to be released in theaters and it wound up going straight to a streamer, and it destroyed a whole window of income that was supposed to be realized in the
mm,
theaters.
mm-hmm.
So, and I think artists have to start, big or small, they have to start looking at they. I think there's two things that have to happen. One, we've got to end the period of the infantilizing of artists. Artists need to learn more about business than
Mm-hmm.
they ever have. We're
Mm-hmm.
in an age where that's almost demanded because everybody is really now more than ever their own brand, their own business. And so it behooves that you know more about contracts, more about the implications of things. And it doesn't sound creative, but quite honestly, the greatest artists are always good at business.
Mm,
You know, the biggest movie star in the world is still Tom Cruise, and that son of a gun is superb at business.
mm-hmm.
Will Smith is great at business. Jamie Foxx is
Mm-hmm.
great at business. Anybody who has a real career right now is excellent with business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not shirking that, I'd say no. The sooner you embrace it, the more you learn from it. You don't have to learn everything overnight. Nobody does. And it's also a living, breathing, shifting organism. The way we do business is constantly changing. It's great to know, what's up, and to be able to influence it with real, uh, thoughtful, informed, rational, and reasonable demands.
Hmm. Hmm. What is it? Okay, let me see. I understand you're saying maybe every quarter to have this conversation. What
I
is
think that would be like the Screen Actors Guild, engaging with agents and managers
yes,
in some way.
yes.
I mean, I haven't thought this through, but I think it needs to happen. I think
I
we need to
think
be much closer.
yeah, I think so too. And that's different from come and meet them and see if you can get them to represent you. No, it's there's
No.
information for us to know because I know you run into it when actors are complaining about how come I didn't get in on that part? How come there aren't more auditions? How come this is not happening? Uh,
Well, I mean, honestly, we're at a point where that is no longer a reasonable kind of conversation.
mm.
Um,
Do you
it
still hear
is
that from actors though? Do you think that's
a
still?
couple, a couple. I think people of a certain age, younger people seem to be far better informed about the ups and downs of the business.
Mm,
Um, the days of coming in and being totally dependent upon your rep and being oh, it's okay, don't worry, or what's going on? Have you forgotten about me? It's like, are you serious? Are you serious? Why would you take somebody on to forget about them? That is not how it works. What it means is that you've been working your tushy off and you haven't been able to get what you want for them, but there's no way you represent somebody just to waste their time. I mean, you just don't do it. If you don't believe in them, you have to release them and let them find somebody who
mm,
does believe in them.
mm,
But the point is that it's too hard of a job, and there's too many factors, major factors that are going on. AI, the shifts in away from our traditional models into streaming in the last. I mean, we're not even talking about 10 years. That
mm,
where so much has changed, and the shrinking of orders of series. 22 episodes used to be the thing, and then sometimes 13, right? And then you still were waiting on that back nine, as we called it.
mm-hmm,
You know
mm-hmm,
that,
mm-hmm.
and it's like we got the back nine, and now this is now it's like you're happy to have six.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did that happen? What are we talking about? Why did we? Where did our residuals go? Even though streamers have commercials on them. So these are questions that we need to be asking, and how we can actually access the money that's being generated by your presence on these networks is not being compensated.
Mm-hmm. Francis has a question. Can you speak to how the new California film incentives will or will not bring production to California?
I think they'll be very helpful. I mean, they're overdue. We should have had them about 10 years ago, but better late than never, y'all.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Look, I mean, we're competing with Georgia, which has had them and has no cap and no sundown. I mean, on it. So that's why people build studios there.
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana is, political, which is why, once in a while when somebody comes in and says, we're going to get rid of this and stop paying corporate welfare to these filmmakers, everybody pulls out of their state. And then they find out that it wasn't welfare, it was actually an economic stimulus.
Mm,
I think that this money is good. I would like to see three times as much,
mm,
but it's a start. And I'm hopeful, but I think we've also let this go on way too long.
mm, mm,
So I think that, we've got to also do a few other things, which is to make it easier to get permits. The state has got to, just simplify everything for filmmakers. If we want to bring it back here, this used to be something that we just assumed would always be. But, we called it runaway production. We've been calling it that for a while.
right,
And
right.
runaway assumes that this is the home. I haven't heard that term in a long time because people know now that it's never going to be the case.
No, no, right. And now that it's opened up so much around Canada. Remember, Canada opened up of course,
Right.
many years ago. But what do you think? What do you think the tariffs will do to the relationship between Hollywood and Canada?
It's hard to say because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't understand how you can apply a tariff to, intellectual property. And I don't really know exactly how that's all going to be worked out because at the end of the day, you manufacture something that winds up being a file when it's done. And so how does that work?
Mm.
and what does, so I mean, I don't mean that with any facetiousness. I really do not understand how that's going to happen. We're going to have to, they're going to have to explain what that means because it has yet to be demonstrated in any specific and clear way.
Right,
I don't
right.
think it's been, I don't think it's been thought through, to be quite honest with you.
I think more than anything, I know more than anything, what I'm thinking, what I'm referring to is the political uproar that's happening between our two countries right now because of the tariffs, because of other conversations that have had. Have you found any slowing in productions um, in Canada, in Toronto? Have they stopped any of our productions? Have they stopped Americans? Are they bringing fewer American productions over, working with fewer American directors, writers, actors?
I mean, there's a general contraction. There's a global contraction, just in response to the
Yes.
sort of overproduction that was happening during the streaming wars.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sort of balancing. And there's a bit of uncertainty because, again, nobody knows exactly how to navigate this moment. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. I think it's less about people being punitive and more about being uncertain how to proceed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, it feels too that there's a let's just wait. Let's just either wait and see or and continue doing what we're doing, but that still is a let's just wait and see what's going to
Yeah.
happen, what's really
It's, it's,
happening.
it's odd because I don't know how you're going to put a tariff, like say if I want to do an American production in Ireland, and Ireland has a great incentive right now, and a lot of shows that are set in the United States are shooting there.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? I don't know how it works. You know, where does the tariff come in?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. Yes, I don't know either. Very
Yeah.
confusing as to why or why would you keep foreign films out of the country? How are you going to stop them from coming? That they've now become quite a fabric of our streaming because of COVID.
Well, and again, we're talking about streaming, which is global. So what does this even mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And of course you're right. I mean, our tastes have internationalized so beautifully. Um, and one of the things I love about streaming is that a lot of I call them lies, or what I call them the beliefs of Hollywood, the traditional beliefs of Hollywood, which is that foreign films don't travel, black films don't travel, this doesn't do that. All these things that they told you. Why don't bother to do this? Because that nobody people have vote with their eyes, and they're showing you that
Mm-hmm.
they want to see things from everywhere.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The reason why Mandela's film was number one in 78 countries, a film from South Africa with a black cast, a
Mm-hmm.
largely black cast, is because people don't care. They're not upholding the prejudices that these people once held as fact.
Yes.
Why are we watching Squid Games?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we watching Money Heist? Money Heist was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a uh, a local Spanish language production that Netflix acquired, put it on the platform. It did a slow burn. People found it, fell in love with it, and because the numbers went so crazy, they wound up paying for multiple seasons, and now they've done the Berlin spinoff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's because people globally are intrepid, they're curious, they want to see things that they've never seen before, and they're willing. It was a Delhi crime story. India. People watch things that are not in their sphere because they're a bit bored with some of the things they've been seeing out of Hollywood, which is, you know, uh, with all due respect, I think that it's become too self-referential.
Mm. And we also want
Like,
variety. We want human stories. And to be able to see someone who doesn't look like you, who's still having a human experience as you would, wait a minute now, that opens your horizons.
I've always said that, entertainment at its best does better than any politician to
Hmm.
create harmony between people.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I totally. And that brings us back, that brings us full circle to telling stories,
Yeah.
how important it is.
Because again, at
Yes.
the end of the day, again, it's we're expressing our humanity, and
Yes.
it's beautiful to watch people experience something through a lens that you are completely unfamiliar with and be, captivated, or, have your heart broken, or, find joy because you've taken this ride with people that you never would have known about before.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And that gives me hope, because I think the world will, as we say, will survive because of collaboration, not because of hostility.
Mm-hmm. And we get to see there's more to each other than what we may read in our newspapers, or of what we will see on TikTok, or what we will hear on our news outlets. There's more to us, and how more alike we are.
Absolutely. I mean, we're like, and also our differences should be celebrated, not denigrated.
Absolutely. Stephen, I'm so glad you joined me tonight. This was so wonderful.
I'm so happy, and thank you for putting up with my jet lag. I'm just my brain is not good.
I bet you guys, Steven was in he might have been on vacation in Greece, but he was working, man. He said, I'm up till 3 a.m. working for you guys. And then he goes to sleep and gets to the beach just a little later. Not quite.
You
Not quite.
know, you got to live your life, and it was magic.
That's right. Steven, so you know what? You know what we often do is we often leave people with some words of wisdom. Is there anything you want to share? You've said an awful lot tonight. But is there anything you want to share?
I just feel like right now, I just want to encourage people to be patient, kind, in the real way, and loving. I feel like these are very simple things, but very needed things. I am not interested in the toxic politics of the moment, and the insanity and the fragmentation. Let's take a beat and see the people underneath these opinions, and try to help them see their own humanity and ours.
Mm. Mm. That is so well said, Stephen. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, my darling.
It's always a pleasure.
It is, and I'll be, you will see Stephen again. He's my favorite second co-host to go to.
And I won't confuse all the directors next time.
That's all right. You have a good
I'm only
night.
human.
You have a good night, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Talk to you very soon.
Okay,
Bye, everybody.
stay with me, everybody. Bye, Stephen. I just love him. He's such a great guy. Stephen Adams. Wonderful, wonderful manager. He's been such a good friend to me. And I've known Stephen for years before we ever started working together. And he's just a treat to have around. So before we go, you guys, Phil wasn't here. We miss Philly. But listen, Phil Morris, my co host, my brother, not by another mother, by the same mama and daddy. You can reach Phil at the Phil Morris. Check him out. You've seen him on Instagram. If you've seen him dancing, you've seen him go to his car rallies on Friday mornings. Always lovely to see him. This is where you can find me. I own a lot of gold. Facebook, Instagram. Check me out. There's the website as well. And this is our show information. Please follow us. Join us on YouTube. Subscribe. We love, love, love to have you be a part of the Vision is Possible family. I'm so glad to have all of you here. And I'm just going to leave you with just a little something. Love each other. Love each other more. Tomorrow is not promised, you guys. Doesn't matter if you have a beef and you're right about it. It's not promised. If you have a thought in your head of calling someone, pick up that phone. Text them. DM them. if they use DMs. I don't a lot. So if you haven't heard from me, that's probably why. But love yourself and love others. Live from your heart. Be clear and on purpose with what you want. Be kind. And I'm going to tag team on something that Stephen said. Be patient. Our country is going through a lot right now, and it's affecting the whole world. We honestly don't know where we're going to end up. But I want you to stay in a place of being positive and working toward making things better, at least in your universe. Find those like-minded friends. Gather together. Love up on each other. Because we've got a lot of work to do. The world needs us more than ever right now. I'm so glad all of you have come. I'm so glad to see you. We'll see you next week. And as I always end the show with, bye Philly, even if he isn't here.